Listen to the brutal, uncompromising truth about the absolute biggest lie you have ever been sold by a weak, pathetic modern society. They told you that you need to be ambitious. They told you that you need to have massive dreams, a vision board, and a burning, emotional desire to conquer the world. They actively brainwashed you into believing that sitting around and vividly imagining your future success is somehow a productive activity. Let me tear this toxic illusion apart right now. Your ambition is exactly what is destroying you. Your ambition is a cheap synthetic drug designed to give your fragile ego a massive dopamine hit without requiring you to do a single drop of actual brutal physical work. Every single time you sit there closing your eyes and dreaming about the empire you are going to build, the money you are going to make, or the respect you are going to command, your brain releases the exact same chemicals as if you actually achieved it. You are literally getting high on your own massive delusions. And when that cheap emotional high inevitably wears off, what are you left with? You are left with a pathetic, weak reality, an empty bank account a week, physique, and a profound sense of crippling depression because the gap between your ridiculous, massive ambition and your actual pathetic execution is the size of an ocean. This massive gap creates intense anxiety and paralysis. You are so violently obsessed with the view from the top of the mountain that you refuse to look down and take the brutal, painful, bloody first step in the mud. The men who actually rule this world, the apex predators who control the board, do not sit around heavily intoxicated by their own massive ambitions. They view ambition as a massive liability. Ambition is emotional, and emotions make you weak, they make you unstable, and they make you incredibly easy to manipulate. If your entire empire is built on the fragile foundation of how motivated or ambitious you feel today, you have already lost the war. The moment the weather turns cold, the moment the system punches you violently in the mouth, your pathetic ambition will evaporate into thin air. You must execute a violent mental override right now. Stop looking at the top of the mountain. Stop indulging in the cheap, pathetic pleasure of imagining your future victory. Look at the mud right in front of your boots. Your only reality is the immediate, brutal, uncomfortable action that you are aggressively avoiding. This is your immediate call to action. Take your massive dreams, take your vision boards, and violently burn them to ashes. You do not need ambition. You need extreme, terrifying compliance to a set of brutal daily disciplines. Start executing blindly in the dark. Your future self will not thank you for the massive fantasies you've built in your head today. It will only judge you for the brutal work you actively avoided. Stop acting like you have endless time. Break the illusion right now. To survive the brutal reality of the shadow empire, you must fundamentally reconstruct your psychological operating system and orchestrate the absolute death of your emotions. Society tells you to follow your passion, to let your feelings guide you, and to find what makes you happy. This is the exact philosophy of a slave. Passion is a chaotic, unpredictable fire that will burn your own house down just as quickly. It will warm you. When you rely on passion and ambition, you are voluntarily strapping yourself to a massive emotional roller coaster that you have absolutely zero control over. You wake up one day feeling like a conqueror and you work for 12 hours. You wake up the next day feeling slightly tired, sad, or uninspired, and you completely abandon your post. This pathetic inconsistency is the exact reason why you are failing. True power, terrifying, monolithic power, is entirely devoid of human emotion. You must become a cold, clinical machine. You must look at your daily tasks, your brutal physical training, your business execution. You're studying not as things you want to do or don't want to do, but as absolute, non-negotiable laws of physics. Gravity does not care if you feel ambitious today. It pulls you down regardless. Your execution must be exactly like gravity, relentless, cold, and completely indifferent to your pathetic human feelings. When you successfully kill your emotional attachment to the outcome, you unlock a terrifying level of invincibility. It no longer matters if people mock you. It no longer matters if you are exhausted, and it absolutely does not matter if you fail 10 times in a row, because a machine does not feel frustration. A machine simply recalibrates and violently executes the next command. You must derive a dark, glorious pleasure from operating completely devoid of inspiration. Look at the weak masses around you constantly, searching for the next motivational video, the next massive spark of ambition just to get out of bed. They're pathetic addicts begging for a fix. You must be the absolute opposite. You must execute your most brutal work on the days when you feel absolutely nothing. When the sky's dark, when your body aches, and when your mind screams for comfort. That is the exact moment you strike the anvil. That is the moment the iron hardens. This is the brutal separation line between the amateur who plays at greatness and the shadow emperor who simply takes it. Your call to action is brutal and immediate. Find the one critical task you have been avoiding because you don't feel like it and violently execute it right now. Crush your emotions under your boot and let the cold mechanical grind become your only master. You decide which architecture you are building. Every single time you choose the warm blanket over the freezing cold. Reality of the battlefield. You are signing a contract with mediocrity. Force your physical body into the absolute limits of discomfort until your mind forgets how to feel pain entirely. Destroy weakness. Let me expose the terrifying reality of what actual empire building looks like. It is not glamorous, it is not exciting, and it is absolutely never fueled by the cheap high of ambition. True progress is a deeply boring, relentlessly repetitive, and incredibly painful, massive grind. It is the exact same darkroom, the exact same heavy iron, the exact same complex problem, staring you in the face every single day for years. The weak man is absolutely terrified of boredom. His fragile brain demands constant stimulation, massive excitement, and grand sweeping narratives of success. When the initial massive spike of ambition inevitably dies, and the reality of the daily monotonous, brutal grind sets in, he immediately quits and starts looking for a new massive dream to get high on. This is the cycle of the eternal loser. You must break this cycle by falling violently in love with extreme boredom and cold execution. You must learn to stare at a completely blank wall and find terrifying, immense power in the silence. The Shadow Empire is built entirely by men who have mastered the art of doing the exact same boring, painful, highly effective actions thousands of times in a row without requiring a single drop of external motivation. This is what cold execution actually means. It means you disconnect your brain from the massive grand vision and you hyper-focus with terrifying laser precision on the one single micro action directly in front of you. You do not think about the $1 million. You do not think about the massive respect. You do not think about the end goal. You think exclusively about placing this one single brick absolutely perfectly. And then you completely forget about it and you place the next brick. You become a relentless, unthinking force of nature. If you want to absolutely dominate your competition, you don't need to be smarter than them, and you definitely don't need to be more ambitious than them. You simply need to outsuffer them in the dark. You need to possess the terrifying ability to tolerate massive amounts of boredom and pain while continuing to execute at an elite level. This is the ultimate weapon while they are exhausted and looking for motivation. You are simply operating on your cold, hardwired baseline. Your absolute worst day of mechanical execution must be completely superior to their absolute best day of emotionally fueled ambition. Stop waiting for the stars to align. Stop waiting for the perfect massive plan. Violence of action is your only metric. Execute now. Execute ruthlessly. And let the massive accumulation of your cold, daily actions build the empire. While you remain completely silent in the shadows, they will desperately search for the secret to your massive success, and that they will find absolutely nothing but a terrifying trail of broken sweat and undisturbed silence. You must become a ghost in the machine operating purely on the relentless friction of daily execution without any applause. Grind. The ultimate glorious payoff of abandoning your fragile ambition and embracing cold, ruthless execution is the creation of a massive, unbreakable monument of pain. When you finally stop dreaming and start bleeding, you fundamentally change the actual chemistry of your brain. You prove to yourself through massive, undeniable physical evidence that you are no longer a slave to your emotions. You become a terrifying, monolithic entity that simply dictates reality. The people around you, the weak, society that constantly relies on cheap motivation will look at your massive output and will be completely terrified. They will ask you what your secret is. They will ask you what massive ambition drives you, and they will never understand the cold, brutal truth. The truth is that there is absolutely no secret. There's only the massive, terrifying absence of emotion and the absolute presence of discipline. You have successfully weaponized the mundane. You have taken the boring, painful, daily actions that everyone else aggressively avoids, and you have turned them into a massive, unstoppable battering ram that will effortlessly crush any obstacle in your path. This is the ultimate revenge against a society that wants you weak and dreaming. You do not defeat the Matrix by arguing with it. You defeat it by completely outworking it in the absolute dark. You have successfully proven that true. Absolute power never relies on the pathetic, fleeting feeling of ambition. It is a cold, silent, heavy force of nature that simply moves forward, regardless of the circumstances. You have evolved from a reactive, emotional puppet, desperately seeking a dream, into a terrifying, untouchable architect of destiny. The weak man closes his eyes and vividly imagines his massive victory, while the dangerous man opens his eyes and violently executes his daily protocol in the mud. You must strictly carry this dark, cold philosophy with you for the rest of your existence. Never, ever trust your ambition again. Whenever you feel that massive surge of emotion, that massive desire to conquer the world, you must immediately recognize it as a dangerous trap. Suppress it instantly and replace it with cold, calculated action. You are the Shadow Empire. You do not dream, you do not hope, and you absolutely do not rely on ambition. You move in absolute silence. You observe everything, and you execute with terrifying mechanical precision. Now close your mouth, stop imagining your future. Lower your heavy head and get back to the brutal, silent work. Let the weak masses dream. The clock is ticking, and your ultimate absolute victory demands your cold-focused isolation. Execute until I win. There is absolutely no glory in this soft, comfortable middle ground where the rest of humanity rots. You are forging a weapon of mass destruction. Out of your own mind, and every single swing of the hammer matters. Erase your pathetic identity and become the pure embodiment of relentless action now.